Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and I hope you're having a great Saturday. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Hope you're having a cup of your favorite beverage out of one of these cups, I hope. And shameless plug, welcome to all of you early birds that are here. And Brad, I hope I can help you with the buying of your first cichlids. I remember my first cichlids. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was mixing lakes. If the word cichlid was in the name, I thought it was okay to put together. And I went through a very steep and somewhat painful learning curve. I'll be talking about that today, and hopefully saving you some grief as well. I've got a couple of videos for you today. One of them is a preview, a rough cut of a lap of the fish room that I haven't released in a while, and I'll go ahead and share that one with you before it's released to the public. And I also have another short video that I'll be sharing with you, a clip from my collaboration with the Cichlid Brothers. Some of you might have caught that, the Cichlid Brothers collaboration. If you haven't, check out the Cichlid Brothers channel. Great channel, great tanks, a lot of great content there. So check them out, the Cichlid Brothers. So welcome to everybody. I see more people are jumping on, and I appreciate that. Now, very quick announcement. I just got a whole new batch of these, my old school stickers, which are kind of my favorite sticker. You can see it here. This is the old school sticker that is actually designed after the light fixture, the sign, the electric sign I have back here, and that I did with Vinny. But if you would like one of these stickers, just send me, if you don't have one, send me an email at ben.o.cichlid and let me know, and I'll be happy to send one out to you. I just got a batch in from Sticker Mule or whatever. Sticker Mule. Just got a batch in, and I'll be happy to share them with you. They are, I think, my favorite sticker. Now, a quick tip that someone kind of encouraged me indirectly to check out. Somebody commented under my videos, "Why are you posting videos at 720p, which is not quite the quality of 1080 or 4K?" Now, for YouTube, I have found that 1080 is adequate, and it doesn't use up too much resources on my computer when I'm creating videos. But let me give you an example. There's a problem, though, and I want you folks to be aware of it when you're watching videos. I have an old video of mine here called Oxygen Tips. Now, I don't think you can, of course, it's on my phone. I don't think you can see it, but the top right corner, there's a thing called settings. You push on that setting button, and what do you know? YouTube is showing me that video at 480p. 480p. Very, very reduced quality. Now, I understand why YouTube defaults to these low qualities, because that doesn't use up a lot of their resources, right? So if you go when you hit that setting button in watching a YouTube video, either on your TV, on your laptop, or on your phone, hit the setting button in the upper right-hand corner and look at what the quality is. Then go down to advanced settings, or better yet, just click on quality, and you'll get different options. And you can go to higher picture quality, uses more data, right? Data saver, lower quality still, or advanced. If you go into advanced, you can choose to watch it at higher quality. So my videos, especially the more recent videos, are very sharp. They're shot off of sometimes on a iPhone 13 Max Pro, but usually they're shot on a Sony A6400 at minimum at 1080p. So select the 1080p choice and you'll get a lot better picture quality. Some people might argue that it's not really noticeable, but you look at it, you decide. Just be aware that YouTube is defaulting your videos, the videos that you're watching, to a very, very low resolution, very low quality. So just be aware of that. So Sue Ann says that I need to get one of those cups. Hey, go to my Teespring store and you'll see them there. The Teespring, maybe one of my moderators can share the Teespring store. All right, so let me just do the, like we normally do. Let's go ahead and do the official start of today's live stream. There you go. It's official now. And I want to do a big shout out to a couple of folks. First of all, a shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals for being a sponsor of the channel. And be sure to use the 15% discount on fish, BENO15. And if you want to get some dry goods, more about that later, BEN10 for 10% off over at Cunningham Tropicals, who I always call Cunningham Cichlids. That's how I first knew him. So you'll see that mistake sometimes. If you go to Amazon, and who doesn't go to Amazon, if you use this link, amazon.com/shop/BenoChart, and visit my store, and then go off into the general Amazon shopping, it gives a credit to my channel. So use that link to get to Amazon, and you'll be helping the channel indirectly, but in a very, very good way. Appreciate that. And lastly, a very big shout out to my moderators who do a great job, and also to those of you who are supporting the channel on a monthly basis, my Garage Gang members, my Patreon supporters. It starts for as little as $3 a month. Details are under the video in the description, and I very often will post a link to a video that talks about it. But this helps the channel, like I like to say, in more ways than you know. Become a Patreon supporter. It is very, very appreciated. So, that being said, let's get into today's topic. Let me get an AV check. How does the AV look? I know one of you predicted it would be good. But how is it? How's the AV? Sound and picture. How does it look to you? Let me tell me in the comments, and that'll oh, there we go. Okay, Kali Kev already hit me. A and V, good. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. So, hey, Jerry, good to see you, buddy. I was thinking about you. I hadn't heard about you or talked with you in a while. So, hope you're doing well. And say hi to Janice for me. And we should talk. Give me a call. I'll give you a call. So, Brad says it's loud and clear. Miguel says it's good. Thank you so much, everybody. Michael says it's perfect. Thank you so much. Whip's World in the house. Some comments about Whip and Whip's World. By the way, Whip, I didn't even realize you had a YouTube channel. I've subscribed to it. Check out Whip's World's YouTube channel. And also Jerry. Jerry has a YouTube channel, Jerry's Fish Room. Be sure to check that out. Hey, Bill. Bill D in the house. Hello to you. And Michelle Crisco, hi to you as well. And Z-Zip. Got some great people in here. Paul and Angelo. And very, very good. Kenneth D, good morning to you. All right. Hey, Sean. Sean in the house, and Tamara's here. Very, very good. All right. So, so for those of you who just tuned in, I do have a new sticker. If you would like to get a copy of it, please just send me an email at ben.o.cichlid. I'll be happy to send you the new sticker. It is the old school sticker that was based on the sign that was made for me. And it is one of my favorite designs. It will be appearing on a hat. More on that in a different live stream. So let's talk a little bit about acquiring cichlids. Now, when I first got into cichlids, again, I mean, I made that very common mistake of if it had the name cichlid in it. I mean, angelfish are cichlids, right? So many fish. The cichlid family is ginormous. It's right. It's South and Central America. It's New World. It's Old World. It's the lakes in Africa, and they're all called cichlids. But certain cichlids get along better, and certain cichlids are okay to put together. And for everything that I tell you, for everything I say, there's going to be an exception. In other words, like if I say, I personally don't like mixing Mbuna, rock-dwelling cichlids that usually live in the coastal waters in Lake Malawi. When I say I don't like mixing Mbuna and haps or Mbuna and peacocks, somebody will come on and say, I've had them mixed for years and it's working great. For me, once the Mbuna put on size, it didn't work great. They started to become crazy territorial, chasing off both bigger haps and peacocks. And so I decided, okay, I need to make a choice. Then I had peacocks and haps, but the peacocks kept killing each other off. Now, at that point, I made another choice. I said, okay, I'm just going to go just with haps and possibly some Protomellus. And that's what I have right now in my big African cichlid tank. I have haps and Protomellus. Protomellus being your Taiwan reefs, right? Your tangerine tigers, your turquoise cichlids. Those are Protomellus. They do need a little bit of veggie in their diet, so they are a little bit different that way. But they put on size. They have a bit of swagger. They can kind of keep up with the predator haps. Interestingly enough, I have found that predator haps tend to get along a little bit better, even though the name would suggest that they're perhaps the bigger killers. I have found that name applies more towards them going after something small that fits in their mouth, and not so much about going after comparable sized tank mates, unless you have a fish in there that is very, very similar in appearance and size. Because sometimes if a fish is similar in appearance, but is much smaller, that they don't even bother with it. But if it looks like it's going to be a direct competitor for primarily for breeding, they're going to go after it. But I have found that the haps, your Bucochromis, your Nimbochromis, even your eye biters and your Strigatus and your gars and your all of these fish, if they're comparable in size, they tend to be okay. And I'm looking right at my Malawi 300-gallon tank, and there's no chases. Everybody's just kind of floating around, minding their own business. Doesn't mean there isn't an occasional chase, especially after a big water change. They get fired up, and one of them will start protecting a corner or something. That happens. But if you're getting into cichlids, if you were just starting in cichlids and you wanted to get into African cichlids, I would say buy yourself, because you're gonna do it eventually anyway. Save up the money, get a 125 gallon, get an aquarium that's 6 feet across, and I think you'll have the best experience if you fill it up with haps. pick up a hawk, pick up a trout, a sand diver, a gar, some Nimbochromis, right? A Venusis, a Polystigma, a living stone eye, a Fusco. Maybe throw a couple of, your bigger, your bigger Protomelis in there, like your tangerine tigers, and maybe throw some Autopharynx in there, like a Tetrastigma, beautiful fish. You'll end up, I believe, right, even with a few types of Buccochromis, you'll end up with a tank that is going to be doing well, right? Especially if you start them off at about maybe just big enough to be able to tell that it's a male, just big enough. A pointed anal fin, a pointed dorsal fin, some color in the face, right? Right when some egg spots, right when you can tell that it's a male. What are we talking about? 4 inches, 5 inches? Fill that 125 with that. Give it a very sparse scape, just a few rocks, nothing super big. Create some water movement. Overfilter it because you're not going to have any plants. More on that later. And I'll tell you, you'll end up, I think, with an aquarium that you're going to be very happy with. Throw some black substrate in there. Black substrate was my favorite. Not big on blasting sand. Some people love it. I love the black that you can pick up from Petco or maybe some Carib Sea. I put a black background on it, right? Put some Velomax on there. You'll be happy. You'll be happy. So now, if you want to get South and Central Americans, I don't have as many years experience in this type of tank, which explains why, if you're a real purist and you look at this tank, you're going to go, wait a minute, what's that Nicaragua doing in there? That shouldn't be in there. What's that Salvini is going to kill everybody. You have two. How do you have 2 chocolates in there? There's a lot of folks that look at this tank and they go, they don't know how I've got these fish here and how they're getting along. And now, especially, right? I've got a Severum back there, red shoulder Severum. There's a electric blue Acara. I've got some ditherfish, right? I've got some silver dollars. So people will look at this fish. People look at the fish in this tank and go, these combinations shouldn't normally work. But I think what's happening here is, first of all, they have a lot of room. There's a lot of room, a lot of swim room. And that's important with cichlids. So, because the chases are not endless, they'll usually protect like a little corner. Like when the Salvini gets in her mood, she'll protect the area around her cave. But beyond that, she loses interest in chasing it away. So a bigger tank is going to be a better tank. So probably my first and foremost tip in setting up a cichlid tank is go with the biggest tank you can afford, that you have the footprint for. Ideally, start with a 125, because if you really become committed to cichlids, you're going to end up with a 125. You're going to end up with 6 feet across minimum, if not larger. And if you follow the channel of Cichlid Brothers, you'll see that they progressively got into bigger and bigger tanks as time went on. So a big tank, don't buy the fish with their current size in mind. Their current size means nothing. You pick up a fish like this red tiger Oscar, who was 1/3 this size a year ago. So a year ago, he would have been okay in a 55-gallon. You have to pull up the fish on your phone, right, when you're in the store, and take a look at where that fish is going to end up, and act accordingly, right? And realize that some fish are very, very fast growing. Normally, you're like that Fusco doubled in size in about 6 months. Fusco that I have in my Malawi tank. The Oscar doubled in at least 6 months or faster. This albino's a little bit of a runt. So there are exceptions, right? But buy the fish and the tank based on where they're going to be in a year and where they're going to be at full size. Be aware of how much waste they produce and whether or not they're plant friendly, and then set up your filtration accordingly. I think with plant destroying cichlids, so you don't have the plants in there consuming ammonia, you need to have a lot of turnover and do water changes. Now, there is another option for doing water changes, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to show you an example of how you can minimize water changes. I was reminded of this by watching a video by Cichlid Brothers. I'm going to talk about it in the video that I'm going to share with you. That in mind, let me go ahead and just share this video with you. First of all, I'm going to share with you the video that I did that appears as a clip in the Cichlid Brothers. Take a look at it. And it was just something short I did for them that they included in a recent video. Check it out. Hey, Cichlid Brothers. Thanks for inviting me to provide you with a short video about my African cichlid tank. It's great when a channel that you really like actually asks you to provide them with a video. Pretty exciting, actually. What I have behind me is a tank full of what are called predator haps, African cichlids from Lake Malawi. The tank is 300 gallons. It's 7 feet across. It's filtered by a sump and a Fluval FX6. So it has a lot of filtration, lots of turnover going on. I have some cool fish in there, some of them that are not that common. I have a Kawingi in there that's actually kind of cool, and you don't see that one too often. I also have a real nice Fusco that has put on some great size, as well as a Buccochromis rhodesii yellow, which has turned out to be one of my favorite fish. Started off a little aggressive, but he's mellowed out pretty good now. I plan on putting some more fish in here, like an Autopharynx tetrastigma, and perhaps a linny, or more Nimbochromis, and perhaps some Protomellus as well. I don't want them to have a lot of stuff to defend or protect, but I do have some artificial plants in there. They destroy real plants, but I have artificial plants that if a fish needs a break or is being chased, they can hide or relax behind a plant for a while. I do water change actually every other week, and I do a top off of the sump every in-between week. So there you have it. That's my African cichlid tank. Thank you for asking for a video. I was very honored, and very well done on hitting 100,000 subs. I am so jealous. Keep doing the great work, guys. Love it. Bye-bye. So that was the video that was done for the Cichlid Brothers, and if you go to their channel, you can see just a compilation of about 10 different fish keepers showing off their cichlid tanks and talking about them, and the video is doing well. I really enjoyed the collaboration quite a bit. And I have another video for you, and this is one that is a preview of a fish room walkthrough. I haven't done a lap of the fish room in a while, so I threw one together, and I'm going to share it with you as a first time viewing. And Be sure to give me your comments and tips. Let me know what you think of it. Here we go. You are the first to see it, as is normally the case, for being in the Garage Gang. Hello friends, Ben Ochart here. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a while since we've done a lap of the fish room, so I thought it was time to show you what's going on in all of the tanks and also in the fish room in general. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what's happening and show you the fish, the tanks, and some of the projects that are going on in here. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Let's start with the 55-gallon planted aquarium, and as you can see, it is lush. Thinning out the hornwort made a big difference. It actually looks a lot healthier since I took a lot of it out. It's still pretty thick, and this one's probably due for a little more thinning, but it's a lot healthier when it's not so much. I brought over a lot of the pagoda snails that were in the 29-gallon because I didn't want to risk the red tear tearing them up. You can see there's some real pretty little pagoda snails, and these were all born in this aquarium except for Big Mama. This is Big Mama right there, and she's the one that started it all. She or he, they can create other snails all by themselves. They don't need a mate. They're that kind of snail. But the plants are doing okay. The fish are doing great. Asboras, lemons, neons, and of course these albino acaros, which are going to get brought over to the 90 probably within the next week or two. The 90-gallon looks a little bare since I took out a lot of the fish, but the ones that are in here are thriving. I think the red-spotted gold severum loves that he's not getting harassed by that red shoulder, by the red shoulder severum. Buenos Aires tetras doing their usual chasing. Congos seem to be doing well. There's definitely a few dominant males and several females. Maybe they'll lay some eggs. Electric blue acara. The one that I left behind, this was the less aggressive of the two. AC Hecali. There's even a Siamese algae eater in here. Looks like a little pencil, a little torpedo. Here's the 29-gallon with my my dwarf blue rainbows. They're all doing great. They're all going to go over to the 55-gallon planted. I may have to put the female red terror that's being brought to me by my friend Whip, and she'll probably go in here. I hope she doesn't destroy my plants, in particular this beautiful red bulb down here, which has been doing well here for quite some time, and of course all the Anubias and Java fern. But I hope she doesn't want to eat the little baby plecos. Maybe they're too big for her. She's not a big red terror. She's very, very small and young, has no color. So she'll be going into this tank as a quarantine and grow out until I feel confident enough to put her in with the male red terror. My little mystery baby fish is doing great. This little fry. He's in this little 5-gallon Aquatop acrylic tank, bow front acrylic tank. I'll just grow them out in here. I think it's a rainbow. Seems to be doing great. I brought him over from the 29. I've been feeding him Northfin Fry Starter, which is like the consistency of talc powder, and he's just been eating it up and thriving on it. Occasionally I'll crush up a little bit of some of the extreme community, just kind of crush it up and put it in there. Seems to be doing great. And right next door is the live bear tank. It's a pretty guppy. Then we go over to the solitary confinement that I've put my red tear into. It's a 29 gallon. So he's in tight quarters, and I don't like him in here. If he gets startled, he can bang up against the sides, but he'll be in there for a little while until I can get these tanks set up in here. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Let's take a look at the 300 gallon. Turquoise hat, looking good. Strigatus. There's the Malawi trout, tends to be a little bit of a camera hog. The Venusis. Rhodesiae yellow, Buccochromis rhodesiae yellow, and the Fusco. They're all just coming in one at a time to introduce themselves to you. Buccochromis spectabilis. These plants back here need to be pulled out and given a bleach cleaning. You can see they've got a little bit of brown on them. The hawk. Love the look of a hawk. They're so unusual. Aristochromis christii. Quingy. As you know, one of my favorite fish. Interestingly enough, I've concluded that that my sand diver is actually may actually be blind. You can see him back there, and the reason he wasn't eating was because he simply can't see the food. So as I wave my hand on the outside of the aquarium, there's like no real reaction. So either he has very low sight or very little sight. But if I put garlic on the food and he's in the area of it, he will go after it. So I think he's just lost his sight, which I guess happens to fish from time to time. His eyes are not foggy necessarily, and there's no damage to him. There's the gar. I'm going to be adding a algae scrubber, so stay tuned for more on that. I had algae scrubbers years ago back in California, and I watched a recent video by the Cichlid brothers talking about how they've been using an algae scrubber and don't have to change the water that often in their cichlid tank. Of course, you can't have live plants inside a cichlid tank because they get eaten up and destroyed, but they're using an algae scrubber to help control some of the nitrates with the absorption of the algae. So I've got a couple of algae scrubbers. I'm going to add one to this tank and see if it makes a difference. It, of course, will consume the ammonia, nitrates, and release oxygen. You can even harvest it and feed it to the fish. It's really good stuff. So stay tuned for some of that. If you're interested in algae scrubbers, I do have a playlist that is, I think it's entitled A Natural Nitrate Reduction, because that's what it does. It reduces nitrates and it also reduces algae in the aquarium because it consumes all the nutrients that algae would require. So it sort of outcompetes. Here's the 210 gallon South and Central American tank, which has been a source of excitement and drama recently. But the good news is that the fish that were brought over, except of course for the red tear, which has been removed, but the fish that are in here now are doing great. You see the geo, both geos. They've been hanging together since I brought them over, but when they start chasing each other, then I'll know they're real comfortable. They love chasing each other. Haven't been fed, so they're pretty excited right now. It looks like my wave maker is on, creating a lot of a lot of water flow. You can see it there, 3,500 gallons an hour. And what it does is it just suspends a lot of the detritus so that it goes into the filters. You can see my electric blue Acara back there. I mean, they're all doing better after I took the red tear out, who was actually creating a lot of excitement. That firemouth. Beautiful fish. Love the red on the bottom of the body. Absolutely gorgeous. Chocolates. This is a algae scrubber from my friends over at Santa Monica Filtration. And essentially what it does inside of it is you have lights that are the perfect frequency for growing algae. So the light section stays on the outside of the aquarium, and then there's a very rough textured area on the inside of the aquarium. You aerate, you provide a lot of oxygen to the algae, so there's an air line, and so bubbles come out of the top of it on the inside of the aquarium, and then hanging on the outside with the magnets are the perfect frequency UV lights. I'll crack it open so you can see it. You can see the UV lights right there, and they're designed to be in the exact range that is most conducive to growing algae. Then the algae grows on this rough texture. And then you pull it out every week or two and clean the algae off. You can also harvest it. And I used to just open it up sometimes, let the fish peck at it. Especially if you have plecos, they just absolutely love it. I used to have a sunshine benga that used to go crazy, and some clown loaches that would go crazy eating the algae. But I'm going to hang this probably in the sump. I'm trying to figure out where to place it in the sump. And it needs an air pump, so I'll probably use one of those air pumps from my friends over at Aquarium Co-op that keeps running for like 48 hours after a power outage. It has a lithium battery backup, so I'll probably use one of those, a single outlet pump, and that should help to keep the nitrates down and help control some of the brown algae that shows up and ends up getting onto the plants in the aquarium. Another project I have going on is this 29-gallon that was the sump underneath the 210. I've got to get it cleaned up and then probably either store it or just put it on Craigslist. But what I'm probably going to do is just put it, just set it up here on the floor and remove all of the substrate from this 55-gallon that's been sitting here empty with the broken brace. The good news is I contacted Aqueon, and I did produce the receipts and was able to provide them everything that they asked for. So they are going to issue me a full credit. Now, what I'm going to do with that full credit is I'm going to take that money they're sending me, they're going to send me a check, and I'm going to go ahead and acquire a replacement from my friends over at Glass Cages. So I worked something out with Joe, they're making one for me. And then I'll be able to show you on a side-by-side basis how an Aqueon tank compares to one that comes from Glass Cages. So you'll be able to see a side-by-side comparison. So watch for that video. I'm sure there'll be some noticeable differences. But I'll get this thing set up, and then that's probably where the red tear will go. And maybe I'll put a divider in it and put the male and female in the same tank, so at least they become familiar with each other, acquainted through a screen, and then we'll go from there. I was sent a big box of food from Josh over at Cunningham Cichlids. Almost every kind of food you can imagine for every kind of fish and aquarium, and just a whole bunch of it. Earthworm flakes and algae wafers and brine shrimp pellets and fry starter crumble. I mean, just so many different kinds of food, and I've got to figure out how to give these away. The best way to give these away: high intensity color pellets, premium cichlid flakes. I might just keep that one. So big shout out to channel sponsor Josh and Cunningham Cichlids, Cunningham Tropicals. I still call them Cunningham Cichlids. CunninghamTropicals.com. Be sure to use the code, the BENO15 for 15% off on fish, and BENO10 for 10% off on dry goods like his high quality food. All right, there you have it. A complete walkthrough. I'm going to go ahead and do a little editing on that and then release it to the general public. But thank you for watching that. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments and the chat, and we can go ahead and open this up. And getting back to the theme of today's video, if I could give you one main tip on keeping cichlids, and again, this is going to be mostly for the cichlids that are more on the aggressive side, right? And it's got to be the fast action, the idea of taking action very, very quickly. Don't wait. Don't think things are going to work out on their own. If you have a fish that's a proven jerk, now keep in mind, and don't. First of all, cichlids are not for everybody. Ultimately, inevitably, you're going to have some violence in a cichlid tank. Maybe even some fish loss because a fish is going to be killed when you're not watching the tank, when you're asleep. Something's going to happen, and there's going to be some bad outcome. That comes with keeping cichlids. Just keep that in mind. And so that's why I say keeping cichlids is not for everybody. Some people don't have the temperament for it, especially if you're buying them as adult colored up males. You're putting out between $50 and $100 a fish, and a fish gets wiped out within 48 hours. It's very, very disheartening, very frustrating. But the tip I can give you is that, one, there will be occasional chases. That's okay. It's the fish that is relentlessly going after another fish, will not stop, will, let's say, like in my case, I have some tall artificial plants that work as breaks in the line of sight. So a fish can go and rest behind one of those if they're being harassed. If the fish continues to go around the plant and chase that fish and flushes them out and continues to chase them, that fish is probably going to kill that fish. So your choice is to either remove the fish that's being chased and hope that the aggressive fish doesn't try it on another fish, or remove the jerk. Now, if you have a fish that is a jerk and relentlessly goes after every fish and will corral fish, will corral all the fish on one side of the tank and tries to claim the entire tank, it's been my experience, and you know this if you watch the channel, that fish just has to go. You either keep him in a tank by himself, or you rehome him by selling him or giving him away or taking him to the local fish store. That's been my only real solution on heavy cichlid aggression. Fortunately, the fish in this tank are relatively peaceful, including that big giant. The geos. Geos are just beautiful, aren't they? But including that big giant red tiger. Now, one of you is asking about the algae scrubber. I'll show it to you on the camera. This is called a hog algae scrubber made by my friends over at Santa Monica Filtration, who I think have relocated. I don't think they're in Santa Monica anymore. The magnets on it are incredibly strong, so it can actually hang on to an aquarium that is, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick glass. So when you separate them, you have to be really careful, and you you separate them like you open a jar of peanut butter, right? You separate it this way. And this is a more current model. You can see it has like a, this is different from the one I showed you in the video I just showed you. This one has like these hairs coming out of the rough. You see that? Can you make that out? And that actually promotes algae growth. And then these are the lights that are the perfect frequency to promote algae growth. So this attaches to, right, the algae part. This part, of course, is inside the aquarium. You have an air line. You can see the air line there. You have an air line that is super oxygenating the algae. The bubbles come out of the top. And then you have, of course, the lights and the adapters and everything else. Just be very aware of the magnets because they are very strong and they will snap together. And if you separate the pieces incorrectly, you can possibly crack the plastic. So be careful with that. But Santa Monica Filtration, look them up. Great company. Small, privately owned, right? Mom and pop type situation, which I love to support companies like that. It includes a black cloth. Here's this black cloth. And what you do is you put this in front of the lights for the first week or so. And so you're minimizing the amount of light. And then you gradually start reducing, right? You gradually start reducing how much of the light you're covering. And it sort of seeds the algae scrubber. And then eventually you end up with these big handfuls of green algae. And what that algae is doing is, of course, it's removing ammonia, ultimately controlling your nitrates, adding oxygen, and you end up with this very nutritious green algae, which I'll drop into the Pleco tank, or I'll even drop into the main tank, and the fish just devour it. But it's just a great way to control algae in an aquarium. Now, if the price of an algae scrubber overwhelms you, there are DIY. Just do a search on YouTube and under DIY algae scrubbers, and there are some ways of making them yourself. So just something to keep in mind. But you can't go wrong with the Santa Monica filtration algae scrubbers. They're built like battleships. And if you want a turnkey, go with that. And I had good success with them in California, but I never got around to installing them here in Nashville. So let's take a look here at what's on your mind. Let's take a look at the chat. Let's see, any questions that you might have, go ahead and ask them now. If I've missed any super chats, I apologize. I haven't been watching very, very closely. A super chat is another way to support the channel by throwing some money at the channel. Sean is asking, Ben, do you feel the 300 would have been better for the South and Central Americans versus the Africans? I like the setup, Sean, the way it is now. Only because, like that Malawi trout's going to get up around 15 inches probably. So I like the extra space, the extra, the 7 feet across, the space from front to back. I like that extra turnaround room. Would these fish love a 300-gallon? Absolutely. Absolutely. And, when this green tear puts on size, the Jack Dempsey gets bigger. The Oscar is going to grow more. I probably wouldn't mind them being in a 300, a 7-foot, or even an 8-foot across tank. More is going to be better with cichlids. But the way it's set up now, especially with my plan on adding more African cichlids, I think it's okay the way it is. The African cichlid tank is going to end up with probably 5 or 6 more cichlids as soon as I can work something out with Josh and maybe pick up a Buccochromis notitania, Autopharynx tetrastigma, maybe a living stone eye, fish like that. So yeah, I think it's good the way it is right now. DSGF, hi Ben, I have 125 with assorted African cichlids. Mabuna, maybe? You're not sure? They had dozens of offspring and some are coming into maturity. Wow. So offspring that survived in an African cichlid tank is impressive. If there's going to be aggression, it's going to be you're going to have the best and worst. The best is that when your fish are breeding, like if I threw some females into my Malawi tank, you would see what is called breeding dress, which means the fish colors go insane, right? The downside is that the fish goes insane. They lose their minds. So they become very protective. They dig a pit. They protect that pit. If they're a big fish, they will corral the other fish away from where they dig the pit. So I try to have an all-male tank. Let it go for a while. See what happens. Some people back, like old school African cichlid keepers would keep a male and 3 females. Maybe 2 males, so one is dominant, one is subdominant, and 3 females just to get maximum color and have about 4 or 5 groups like that in the aquarium. You could end up with a battle royale, but in the meantime, you're going to have some beautiful colors. Cat Sailor hits me with a super chat. Thank you, Cat. Appreciate that, my friend. The 55-gallon was purchased from Petco during one of their half-off sales. So the check that they're sending me is not for the full price of a 55. It's for what I paid. So I'm getting back like $80. But I will compliment Aqueon on responding quickly and agreeing to send me a refund. But I just didn't want to go with another Aqueon, so I decided to go with a Glass Cages 55 that'll fit on the stand. Andrew wants to know if his friend who has a fish rescue should get on YouTube. I think so. I mean, find out, share where he is. I'm sure there's YouTubers in his area, or maybe he can share clips of the rescue with a YouTuber that would like to do a collaboration with him. That's how Ohio Fish Rescue, that's how they exploded, right? And became very popular. I think it started with a video from a gentleman named Steve Poland, who did one of the first major walkthroughs of Ohio Fish Rescue, and they just became crazy popular. So, I think people who do stuff like that, I think that's if you go to local fish stores, you'll see that they'll have tanks with an 18-inch green pleco, a large Oscar, and they're not for sale. They've just adopted them. And it's inevitably, when you ask the owner, it's somebody who had that fish in a 20-gallon or a 40-gallon breeder, and it just got too big. And so they end up, being the kind-hearted, fish store owner. They go ahead and take it on, but it's really impractical because they need those tanks to sell fish. So these rescue services are awesome. And of course, if you look at Ohio Fish Rescue, I mean, OFR, I mean, they're doing phenomenal. I have a video on it. Maybe one of the moderators can share that. And in case you're wondering, Salient Aquatics, I don't think I'll ever own a tiger barb. I've said it before. They're beautiful, but they're way too nippy. Way too nippy. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and ask them in the chat right now where I can see them, and I'll be happy to go ahead and address them. And yeah, Eric commented on the Venusus. And yes, my Venusus is very yellow, has a lot of yellow in the body. I believe he was bred for that. That being said, he is a bit of a runt. Now, how did he get that blaze? Is he part Z-Rock? Is there a little bit of Z-Rock in there? Because his blaze goes from his upper lip to his tail. So he has he's very yellow, way more yellow than green. So he's not your typical giraffe hap, but he's also a bit of a runt. So, I mean, Venusus that I've had in the past would have been half larger than he is now, maybe another 2 or 3 inches, at least as big as the Fusco. So I think because of that, he's not as aggressive. And so that's been kind of a plus point. I know Jerry mentioned how he's had to rehome Venusus because, yeah, they can be tears. They can be absolute tears when they get big and bulky, but mine isn't doing that. Cat Sailor says that an angelfish might be experiencing blindness. You know, it's these fish, as they get old, they experience some of the same things, you know, people can experience, right? They have organ failure. They have their immune systems get weak and compromised. They become weak. They stop eating and they lose their sight. So very similar to some of the stuff that humans go through. And it's funny because I'm looking right at that sand diver. He looks healthy. He's colored down. They probably get a lot of the cues that color them up from, through their eyes, right? The colors of the substrate, the background, the tank mates, what's going on. A lot of that probably triggers the colors. So if they lose their sight, they just kind of become kind of neutral, which he's become. He's become kind of gray. And so, but yet his eyes are not foggy. But I think he's got either minimized vision or a loss of vision. So I've got to put some garlic on the food, and that way he sort of smells it and goes after it. But who knew, right? That fish can just lose their vision. But yeah, they suffer through the same things that humans suffer through. So in this tank here, I'll give you a close-up of it. In this tank, this Nicaragua always protects this little area right here when she's not trying to bite my finger. I think that wave maker has gone on again. You can see all the motion, but it looks like the electric blue Acara is claiming the area back there behind the wood. The green tear goes all over the place. The Jack Dempsey is behind this big boulder. Seems to be hanging out back there. Everyone has their own little area. The silver dollars are always hanging out back there. And the Oscars and the Viejas are all over the place. The chocolates tend to be near the back and under the wood. It seems like the Geos are all over. So it's just funny. You get these sort of open water, you get the territorial. Here's the electric blue Acara. I'm watching his fins real closely. This is a little bit of damage he had when the red tear was in there. So he's healing up now. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, the red tear did have a split in his tail from when he was in here, but it's already almost entirely healed up in the 29 gallon. So he's healing up very, very quickly. So that's kind of cool. But you can see the Severum there in the bottom left corner there doing well. Much lighter in this aquarium. And I think that has to do with substrate, tank mates, and lighting. I like this look on the Severum where you can see the prominent stripes and the red on the shoulder. I like that a lot more. So again, background and substrate and tank mates, all of those are factors in the color of your fish. And if I had to pick one, believe it or not, I'd probably pick a black substrate and a black background. But in this case, the Severum looks better with the lighter background. Unplug that wave maker so the fish come over. See that they're all going to the far side of the tank because of the amount of water flow. You can see these are just my water pups, and this is why I really couldn't stand the idea of having them corralled in the back corner. And this is why I pulled that red tear out very, very quickly. I didn't want to mess around because they're just water pups. They're just very cute. They follow me around. They face off with me, and I grew them out from very, very small, from about yay big. And the Oscar was also very small when I grew them out. So I just didn't want to see them tortured. And maybe it would have settled out over time, but I don't know how much damage would have occurred in that time period. So I didn't really want to take that chance with the Oscar and the Vieja. And so I ended up pulling that red tear quickly. And I'm thinking that the red tear will probably end up in the 60-gallon acrylic that I'm going to be setting up. And that's probably what will be the breeding aquarium for the 60-gallon aquarium, for the red tear. I'll probably end up putting them in the 60-gallon acrylic. And I'm going to have to build reinforcement under the shelving to hold that tank. So I have that where I have the 20-gallon live bear and that little bow front acrylic with that little baby fry in it. Those tanks will have to go somewhere else. And then underneath that, I'm going to build reinforcement, some wood reinforcement that I'll build. And then that's where the 60-gallon will fit, right in that spot right there. I've measured it. It'll fit perfectly. And I suspect that's where the red tears will end up. All right. So all that being said, I want to thank all of you for being here today, and I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. And I will be releasing, probably with a little additional content, that walkthrough. I'll go ahead and release that as a standalone video. I'll probably also be releasing a video on the installing of the algae scrubber. And what else is coming up? Probably the arrival of the new 55. But that new 55-gallon from Glass Cages is not going to be here for about 3 weeks. But when it comes, of course, I'll have a video on setting that up. That'll be fun. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much, my friends. You are the best. You are very appreciated. Thank you to all of you who gave the video a thumbs up. Thank you to subscribers, to my Patreon supporters, to my moderators. and all of you for stopping by. You are the best. You are appreciated. And I think with all of that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. See you next week, my friends. You rock. You're the best. Bye-bye.